Okay, I think we're. Yeah, I think we're about ready to take off and start the actual Planning Commission meeting. I'll just get the nod from Ashley here and make sure we're ready to go to the technological side.
Chairman Bloomfield, we are ready.
Okay. All right, I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Gilbert. We'll start out tonight by having a Pledge of Allegiance. Ashley, if you could lead us in that, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Blazier,
Here.
Commissioner Fay,
Present.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Munt,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yeah.
Vice Chair Simon,
Here.
and Chairman Bloomfield.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. As we ended up the study session earlier, we had some discussions about the agenda, and we talked about moving items 7 and 8 and removing them from the consent agenda to be heard because there were a couple of issues that had not been addressed that were of particular concern to the two members of the Planning Commission here. So we'll pull those off, but at the same time, we have item number 9 to be continued, and so we could move that up into the consent agenda. Item number 10, nobody had any real problems in there, and there aren't anybody requesting any requests to speak on items number 10 or 11, so we could really put 9, 10, and 11 all up into the consent agenda. Does that seem okay to everybody on the commission? Okay. Then what we'll do is do just that. The consent agenda will now consist of items number 9, 10, and 11, and the non-consent agenda will be 7, 8, and 12. Items 7, 8, and 12. Vice Chair, do we have?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with consent items as 9, 10, and 11, and non-consent as 7, 8, and 12.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have our agenda. Now we have communications from members of the public. They may comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the town, but not on the agenda. The Commissioner Board response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Do we have any communications from the citizens on this at this time? And could we open up the lines to do that?
Chairman, we don't have any in person, but I am going to unmute the lines. So if there is any members of the public on the phone line or on WebEx that would like to speak, please state your name before you begin speaking. I'm going to unmute the lines now. Okay, not hearing any.
Okay. Then we'll move on, and this will be the first time in 3 months that I have not missed this. So, Council Liaison, by golly, you're on deck.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I was going to remind you earlier after study session when everybody was reminding you about some other things, but I thought I should wait. So last meeting, I talked a little bit about Gilbert's hashtag Gilbert Together business recovery program, and we just had wrapped it up. So I went over some of the statistics of where we landed, and I just wanted to let everybody know that as of Monday, February 1st, that program has been reopened under a phase 2 with amended qualification standards so that more businesses that couldn't participate before have an opportunity to be considered for participation now. And we're excited about that. The last program we just had some really good results, and especially when compared to some of our neighboring cities who had similar programs. I think Gilbert has done a great job. Staff did a great job of putting together a program that actually met 3 criteria. They not only had a grant program, but they had a micro loan opportunity for loans of up to $50,000. And they also had a business resiliency plan that included ways for businesses to collaborate, to grow their customer base, to identify mentors that could help new businesses. And so it was a really neat program. I also wanted to mention that yesterday, Gilbert also signed an agreement again with the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and we do that every year. And the GPEC has some fantastic results over the last 5 years. They've partnered with us on 8 relocation projects, bringing 8 businesses into the Gilbert community, resulting in 2,400 jobs and $184 million in capital investment. And it's really neat because we can actually measure the performance of this relationship. And right now, the return on this investment, because we do have to pay every year to be a member, the return on investment is $51 for every $1 that we invest in GPEC. So it's more good news for Gilbert growth and our economic growth. And I'm just so proud of staff and to be a part of this, and you should be too. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Councilmember September. We appreciate you being a liaison with us, and I'm pleased I finally got my act together. So, okay, moving on. We are now in the public hearing consent calendar. All items listed below are considered the public hearing consent calendar. The Commissioner Board may, by a single motion, approve any number of items where, after opening the public hearing, no person requests the item to be removed from the consent calendar. If such a request is made, the Commissioner Board shall then withdraw the item from the public hearing consent calendar for the purpose of public discussion and separate action. Other items on the agenda may be added onto the consent calendar and approved under a single motion. On this consent calendar, we have items number 9, DR 20-154, Drops of Beauty Medical Spa, which is to be continued until the next meeting in March.
Chairman, that is March 3rd.
March 3rd, okay. And then item number 10, Z20-07, the Mercy Center PAD amendment. And item number 11, Z19-01, the Heritage District Design Guidelines, which we heard a comprehensive presentation on last month. So that is our consent calendar, and we need to open up a public hearing and see if anybody wants to be heard on any of those cases, correct? Open up the lines.
Chairman, that is correct. I will be unmuting the lines now. If there is anybody on the line that wants to speak on any of those agenda items, please state your name. I didn't hear anybody, Chairman.
Okay. All right. Then, Vice Chair, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as you just reviewed.
Okay. Second?
I would second that.
Commissioner Fay seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Passes. Okay, moving on to the non-consent public hearing items, which are heard as an individual public hearing and will be acted upon by the Commissioner Board as a separate motion. During the public hearings, anyone wishing to comment in support of or in opposition to a public hearing item may do so. If you wish to comment on a public hearing item and you are here locally, you must fill out a public comment form if you're within the building. indicating the item number on which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the commission and board, and we will also open it up online for anybody who wishes to speak online on any of these items. So the first item on this will be item number 7, which was pulled from the previous consent calendar, and it's DR 20-96 3XB LLC. And Keith Newman is up, and because it was on the consent agenda.
Chairman Bloomfield, members of the commission, good evening. Can you hear me and see my screen?
We can. Keith, can I make one quick comment?
Yeah.
With it being pulled from the consent agenda by members of the commission who had specific concerns, does it make sense to have them ask those concerns and address those so that we can scale down the presentation from Keith?
Chairman Bloomfield, that would be fine with me. I can either give you a full presentation if you want, or we can just go straight to the concerns and I can try and answer those questions. It's up to you. However you want to do it.
I think I'd prefer to go that route and have the questions and the concerns be addressed specifically by you. So
Perfect.
I think on this one, it was you, Commissioner Fay, who requested that. So
Keith, when this came forward previously, there was a line regarding specifically drainage. I had several concerns, but most of them were addressed via phone calls or conversations or something with Tom. But one particular was related to drainage, and the presentation during study session said something rather fast along the lines of drainage will be conveyed through surface gutters to a common basin on the north of the property side. I don't have it in front of me anymore. And I said I would like to see that point addressed with more specificity. And what I think is in here is really just kind of a cut and paste of the same line, actually from elsewhere in the package. So to be specific, as a policy, does the city allow conveyance of on-site drainage using public right-of-way surface gutters? 2, are there valley gutters or some other conveyance to cross Merrill, which is a crowned road, to get to these northern basins? 3, is the basin sized for all of these properties? And 4, is it somehow deed restricted? I think I specifically asked if it's deed restricted. What I'm attempting to do is make sure that we are avoiding a eventual drainage fight with the neighbors on this property, particularly the one to the north. If there's more to drainage, I'd certainly be open to it, but those are off the top of my head the major questions I have.
Chairman Bloomfield, Commissioner Fay, I appreciate the question. I would like to give the opportunity to Tom Condit, if he's available, to be able to answer those questions. If he's not, I can take a stab at it.
Keith, Tom is not available. Okay. So you're going to take a stab at it, or we could open it up to the applicant as well. So.
Yes. Chair Bloomfield, yes, I will take a quick stab at it, and then if the applicant would like to explain it in more detail, that would be fantastic to try and fill in the gaps. So Commissioner Fay, as far as the drainage is concerned, I have the grading and drainage plan in front of you on the screen. The drainage for this development was approved as part of the final plat for the Fuller Commercial Center. I can't remember how many years ago, but it was quite a few years ago that this center was approved. So as you had stated, the drainage flows into Marvin Court in these gutters adjacent to the curb, but not necessarily valley gutters, but they're gutters. And I have another image here that shows you. So it goes into Marvin Court, and then it actually, to my understanding, it conveys through these gutters and goes into a catch basin, and then goes under, I believe it goes, a catch basin somewhere around in here, where you can, I don't know if you can see my arrow. I may need to use the little pointer thing.
Yeah, we are missing your pointer.
Yeah, let me see if I can throw down the little, I don't even know if I know how to do that. Okay, here it is. I got it. Here's the laser pointer. So here we go. So the drainage conveys into Marvin Court in gutters and then goes this way. westbound, and there's a catch, like kind of a catch basin, or not a basin, but it's a kind of a scupper, if you will, that catches the water here, and I believe it conveys it underneath the road and into this retention basin here. So this drainage has already been analyzed and approved through the original Fuller Industrial Park final plat. The lot to the north will be required in the future also their drainage will be handled the exact same way. Just like all of the other lots in the development are handled the exact same way as well. As far as deed restrictions, I don't know the answer to that question. I think maybe the applicant could potentially answer that question a lot better than I can. But that is the way the drainage is handled for this property and all of the properties within the Fuller Industrial Park. I don't know if I was answered all of your questions, Commissioner Fay, but I think maybe the applicant, if they could take a second to potentially address those concerns, that would be great, because they probably have way more information than I do.
You did on everything except for the deed restriction and the policy one. And the deed restriction, if we addressed it in the plat, it's probably a restriction that runs with the land. It's probably close enough and probably not an issue. And probably we don't need to hold up or table this particular item. I will talk to Tom about, as a policy, does the town allow properties to use public right-of-way for private stormwater conveyance? It's not unheard of. It's not common either. And I can probably address that with Tom in a general sense.
Chair Bloomfield, Commissioner Fay, I would say in this instance they have given the approval to use public right-of-way for conveyance of stormwater, as it was an approved condition by the town through the final plat.
To use the gutter.
Civil improvement plans to use the gutters. Yes.
Okay then. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That happens in most every residential development as well, because all of the lots will drain to it unless it's a large half-acre lot or more, then they can do others. So it would happen that way.
Right.
Okay. Keith, I think we're clear. Now we can.
Okay.
Can we make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve DR 2096 3XB LLC.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Chair, you need to open it to the
Oh,
public.
you are correct. We need to open up the line to see if anybody else wants to speak.
Okay, Chairman, at this time, I will be unmuting the lines. If there is anybody that would like to speak on this item, please state your name.
Okay, I didn't hear anybody either. Commissioner Fay did have one last thing, was the deed restrictions, and is the applicant available, and would they be able to speak to that? Would that be helpful?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Chairman Bloomfield, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight on this. Keith Newman's pretty much explained the best that he could on a lot of these issues. This subdivision was designed to handle master planned retention, as is the subdivision to the west for the industrial. So we have done one building in this already, and it drained the exact same way. For the deed restrictions, I would have to work that out with engineering if there's any issues with that, further as we go into the approval process. But and my name is Brian Johnson. I'm a Gilbert resident, by the way. So that's about pretty much all we have to add to that.
Okay.
Keith has done a great job.
I wanted to make sure that if there was anything out there that you knew specifically, that we could
No,
We
nothing
could-
else, Chairman.
add it to the record. Okay. All right, Commissioner Fay, do you feel comfortable moving forward then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, very good. All right.
All right. So I'll make a motion to approve the finding of facts of DR 20-96 3XB LLC. Do I need to read the site plan, landscaping, grading, drainage elevation, floor plans, lighting, and colors. Materials approximately 0.90 acres, generally located southwest corner of Merrill Avenue and Marvin Court, and zoned light industrial with a planned area development overlay.
Okay. Second? Second by Commissioner Blazer. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item number 7 passes. Is recommended for approval. And item number 8, DR 20-118 Melrose Commercial, Sydney Bethel.
Good evening, Commissioners. Would you guys like me to provide a presentation, or would you like me to just discuss the concerns? Or we also, I believe I was told, have the applicant, Adam Baugh, in the building, and he also has a presentation on the project, and he may be able to address some of the concerns more directly.
Okay. Sydney, what we'll do is we'll have Commissioner Jones express his specific concerns, and then we'll give you a chance to explain it, and if everything looks good, then we'll move forward at that point. But if not, we've got Adam right here that we can lean on. Commissioner Jones.
Great. Thank you, Chairman. So the issue here for me was that when I look back in this, we had this in study session. I believe there were 3 of us that commented on the traffic flow of this site, in particular, some concern given the expected volume off of Val Vista into a gas station with 2 abutting drive-throughs. And if you read the report, it said no changes were made by the applicant to address this comment. So we had this on the consent agenda. I thought we should potentially discuss it. I've discussed this with both Sydney and the applicant. And again, I guess, I understand. I'm just a lay commissioner here. I believe that traffic has approved this. I believe staff is in support of this. To me, it just feels a little tight. I think the concern that I have is that as traffic enters the site off of Val Vista and into this large gas station, you have potentially traffic turning left, a very sharp left, from these 2 pads back onto Val Vista, and I think it creates a potential conflict. I understand it's within the guidelines and everything's been adhered to. There's nothing as far as that, but I guess when you look there at that site plan, Pad B does sit a little closer to Val Vista than Pad A. I think it's because of the trash enclosure back behind Pad B. And with the applicant's help, we looked at a few other kind of comparable sites in the town where we have these kind of situations, these types of uses adjacent to each other. And what I noticed was just that typically these drive aisles are, at least the examples that we looked at, were a little bit wider than what's being done here. And not typically quite as tight to a main street like a Val Vista. And so that's, again, it's just me feeling what could go wrong here. I know the applicant's happy to try to work with us on this to find a solution, but overall, I like the project. I'm not saying that Pad B shouldn't be a drive-through. It's just that tight left there that potentially creates some conflict with traffic coming into this project.
Okay. Sydney, you want to try focusing your presentation to that, and then we'll ask Adam if he has any input, and then open it up for a public hearing as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Bloomfield. So I pulled up the site plan here, and Commissioner Jones was referencing the item that he's concerned about. So this project is a total of 3 buildings, and he is specifically referencing the drive-through building Pad B. In the study session, he addressed the same concerns where he's concerned with this shared drive aisle with the gas station and it exiting directly onto a major right-of-way. The applicant may be able to provide some more insight into different types of design configurations and items that they considered to mitigate those potential issues from arising. but the item does meet code, and I do have the assistant town traffic engineer on the line, Clinton Emery, who may be able to speak more on it. They are able to provide some items that were discussed with some signage in order to try to stop from free-flowing traffic going on here during the construction process. But beyond that, the applicant would be able to provide more information on why other configurations that did not have the drive-through exiting onto this main drive aisle did not work for this site. So I don't know if
Okay.
we want to go over the engineering concerns prior to Adam coming up and discussing that as well. We do not have Tom Condit on the line, but I do have Commissioner Fays. I did not talk to him before this meeting, but I do have his concerns from study session.
Okay. Let's go ahead and have Adam come up, and then if we feel like the assistant traffic engineer would be helpful with a little more input, that would be good. Thanks.
Members of the commission, thank you for your time, and your concerns are warranted. When I think about this site, two things happened here that existed before my client purchased the property. First of all, the length of the site is what it is. It was determined by prior owners and street alignments. And that's an important consideration because as we looked at the comments from last month, you can only move buildings so much in a site of this size. And also the driveway along Val Vista can't go further south nor any further direction north because it has to be a minimum distance in those roadways alignments as well. So you sort of have to deal with the circumstances that you got related to the site. I think my client's done a really good job trying to address that. But the first thing we looked at is can we move pad B a little bit differently? But the town prefers that trash enclosures be behind the building and hidden. And so that meant our building had to be in front of the trash enclosure. And so as a result, the building in that alignment has to be there. You can't shift the building in a different direction because you have to have a minimum drive-through queue length. So as a result, you're limited as to how you can play with the site as it is.
Well, could you adjust your microphone so that we can hear you
Yeah.
just a little bit better? Just put it up to your mouth a little bit. There you go.
Okay, hopefully that works a little bit better. And so it's not that we've disregarded the comment, but with the site that we have, the narrowness of its length, the two roadways on both sides, and the location that's required for Val Vista, those are the circumstances that we have to work with. But what we did do, and I apologize, I think this is probably our mistake. On the resubmittal, we didn't clarify precisely 3 changes we did make. And those changes might appear minor, but they were in consideration of those comments. So the first one we did is we shifted our curb along the drive aisle a little further south. We lined up our exit curbs a little bit differently. And we also added a stop sign, which is one of the comments I did hear from the Planning Commission last month, that if we couldn't change the site, at a minimum, provide some signage. And so we did that as well. The condition that you're seeing here, though, isn't unusual, and there are multiple examples across the town of Gilbert where you have drive-through and a gas station sharing the same driveway. And I would even submit to you that if we were to remove the drive-through, you still have the same condition of a drive aisle that would turn left into that Val Vista Drive anyways. It's a function of the site being as narrow as it is and as short as it is. And we can't design around those conditions. But I do think that the subtle adjustments we have made and the addition of that stop sign will at least give somebody pause to consider before they make a particular movement. I want to point out that this does comply with all the engineering standards. It's been reviewed and approved by the town's traffic engineer. In fact, the town traffic engineer has approved a reduction in our drive aisle setback from 60 feet to 40 feet. So those are all people whose task the responsibility of ensuring safe movements. And in this case, it does comply. With regard to Commissioner Fay's comment, that comment, it was an advisory comment for us to look at some things which were existing drainage patterns. Those drainage conditions were installed back in 2007. I think in your staff report, they answered that question for you.
Yeah, I didn't. I was satisfied with the answer on this one. I wanted to pull it. I wasn't sure whose comment it was, but I wanted to pull it because of the unaddressed comment, not because of the drainage.
Okay. I think I got miscommunicated back to me then. So I'm happy to share anything more I can, but we're sort of limited by the circumstances that we've got with the project.
Sure. No, I think you've done a great job. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for? I do. Okay.
I'm sorry, I just have one question. On the limitations of the property, are the limitations inherent to the fact that you're putting 3 different buildings on the site? Because, I mean, yeah, there's limitations, but if you put one building, those limitations don't exist, right?
No, that's not accurate. But let me sort of explain. Let's say the concern from Commissioner Jones is the drive aisle right in front of Pad B. And as someone turns out of that drive aisle, they're making a left onto Val Vista. That drive aisle is going to exist there regardless of have Pad B drive-through restaurant, Pad B no restaurant. That's a drive aisle that's already going to be there, and that condition will always exist regardless if this building gets built. So it's not a function of us building too much building on the property. In fact, the buildings on this property are rather small relative to the side of the size. I think Pad B is probably less than 4,000 square feet. So it's not that we're building too much. It's just a function of we only have so much depth from Val Vista. We only have so much width frontage and 2 driveways, so I can't move my Val Vista entrance south or north without violating other spacing standards from other driveways.
And on the, I guess is the north arrow up, I can't tell, but on the bottom left behind Pad A, you couldn't just not have Pad A there and have a right turn only coming out of there? Is there some circumstance I'm not aware of that makes that not possible?
Commissioner, I'm having a hard time seeing what you're saying. Mind kind of clarifying that a little bit better for me?
So the exit, there is an exit on the bottom right of that picture, I guess, is my
Correct.
question.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yeah, there is an exit. It's a right in and right out only, and so you can't turn left out of that area. But that is another route of travel. So there's actually 3 routes of travel. We have one on our north side, one on our south side, and then one directly to Val Vista. So there's 3 different ways for people to exit the property. I guess, frankly, if somebody was concerned about exiting Pad B and going across drive-out traffic, they could also just simply make a left and navigate to the back of the property and then go north or south if they felt that was a safer movement.
Makes sense. Yeah, and I think, just personally, I have qualms with the amount of traffic that's going to be going on internally, and it's going to create an atmosphere where people will likely make decisions based on trying to be more expeditious than they should and make turns they shouldn't. However, from a planning management standpoint, there's no grounds with which to restrict somebody for doing that. So I still have concerns about it, but my concerns aren't something with which I can have any, there's no laws with which to hold the hat on that. So nonetheless, I think, it's great. I like it. I just think there's going to be some issues. So thank you, Mr.
It's
Ball.
a tight site.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why it was zoned 14 years ago. One of the reasons why it was design reviewed 14 years ago, and until now, no one's done it. Because I think inevitably those conditions impact the site one way or the other.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. We'll open up the public hearing. Ashley, on this one as well.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to unmute the lines now. If there is anybody that wishes to speak on this agenda item, please state your name. All right, Chairman, I didn't hear anyone.
I'm not hearing anybody either. Okay. Commissioners, do we have a?
I'll make a motion to approve findings of fact and approve DR 2118 Melrose Commercial Site Plan, landscaping, grading, drainage, elevations, floor plan, lighting, colors, and materials for approximately 3.69 acres, generally located at the northeast corner of Melrose Street and Val Vista Drive and zone general commercial.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Fay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There's one. Okay, Commissioner Jones is opposed. Okay, moving on. Item number 12, Z20-10, the Smart and Safe Act. This will be presented. We have one person, one member of the public who wishes to speak on this, but Josh Rogers will have your presentation first and then invite that person up to speak. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman Bloomfield and Planning Commissioners. Z2010, the Smart and Safe Act, is a requested update to the Land Development Code regarding the passage of Prop 207 the Smart and Safe Act back last November. Um, Staff's request for this item is to generally amend 3 sections of the Land Development Code relating to updating and bringing the LDC into conformance with the rights granted to Arizona residents and businesses, and to reflect the regulatory authority granted to the town of Gilbert by the Smart and Safe Act. For just a quick background on the proposed amendment, as I just mentioned, Arizona voters authorized the legalization of recreational marijuana at the November 2020 general election by voting in favor of the Smart and Safe Act, also known as Prop 207. Although the town council preemptively voted last October to prohibit retail sales, standalone retail sales, and the establishment of testing facilities within the town, this prohibition may not apply to medical marijuana licensees located in Gilbert who are given the ability to apply for a dual license to sell both medicinal and recreational marijuana. Um, just real quick, staff were recommending or requesting to amend just 3 sections within the code: the use regulation table, the supplemental use regulations, which is the core of the marijuana regulations, and then the use definitions themselves. To start off with the update, just want to jump to the very end of the Land Development Code with the use definitions, because this is where it all starts. The proposed changes to the use definitions are twofold. We're recommending adding various new definitions introduced by the Smart and Safe Act, such as a dual licensee site, which would be a facility that sells both marijuana, medicinal marijuana, and recreational marijuana at the same site, which is as permitted by the Smart and Safe Act. Number 2 is to consolidate all marijuana-related uses under the new marijuana facility definition, which will encompass all of the new and existing uses as a way to clean up the various sections of the code. So, for example, instead of listing out all of those marijuana-related uses, like the dispensary, dual licensee site, they're all just included under the new marijuana facility term. The second section of the code staff is requesting to update is Table 2.9 use regulations, just to reflect those new definitions we just spoke about, as you can see on the screen, and also consolidate everything under a new marijuana use category, whereas right now, currently, the marijuana section is in 2 sections of the table. We're just combining it all into one. And lastly is the core of the marijuana regulations is in Article 4.5, the supplemental use regulation section. We're requesting modifications to reflect those updated definitions I mentioned earlier, update terminology so that our regulations reflect and apply to both the medicinal dispensaries and any new potential dual licensee site. And then also to remove duplicate regulations already expressed in state law. For example, the security section, the security plan section in the code, that is all of those items are already required by state law, so it's not necessary to reflect them in our code. We have not received any comments during the citizen review that we had last November or leading up to this hearing from any members of the public. So just in closing, for the reasons set forth in my staff report, we recommend to the Planning Commission a recommendation of approval for Z20-10 to the Town Council. I just want to thank you for your time. I'll be happy to answer any quick questions that you have on the subject. Thank you.
All right. Gentlemen, do you have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Anderson.
Josh, I want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. So is it, if somebody wanted to come to Gilbert, open up shop, they can't open it up just for recreational use. They would have to have a dual license for this, dual and medicinal, to open up a shop in Gilbert. Am I understanding this text correctly?
Chairman Bloomfield, Commissioner Anderson, that is correct. They would have to have an existing medical marijuana dispensary, which then would allow them to apply to the Arizona Department of Health Services for certification to be a dual license site.
They have to have an existing shop in Gilbert. So if somebody does not have an existing shop in Gilbert, are they allowed to apply for a medicinal and a recreational facility in town of Gilbert?
I do believe that you have to have the the medical dispensary first. However, that's not necessarily saying that any dispensaries that want to come into the town later and establish a dispensary later couldn't do so. It's just saying that the dispensary has to be first, and once the dispensary is established, then they can apply for the dual licensee certification.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding everything correctly, because I do remember reading an article about this not too long ago, where I think, what does the town have, one dispensary here now? And regardless if people agree or disagree with this use, I want to make sure that we're not preventing people, if they want to open up a shop legally in the town, that we're not creating a monopoly for this one guy who is apparently who would not have any competition, and all we're really doing is making this person really rich because of what we're doing to this code. So is if you can assure me that's the case, I can support the text.
Commissioner Anderson, yeah, this does not change any existing ability to establish a dispensary in the town of Gilbert. It does not do that.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Josh, the state requires, they have areas where a dispensary can be established currently, and those were all applied for and adjudicated long ago. And there is in the town only one, and that's the only one that has authorization to function here. Is that where you're headed, Commissioner Anderson? And there will be no others, just because the state regulates that and hasn't really rescinded that regulation at this point.
I just want to make sure that we're not preventing free commerce in the town because of this text. If somebody else outside of the town wants to open a dispensary, and if they do per the correct legal requirements, that they have that right. I just want to make sure that this one dispensary is not going to be the only one, and this text prevents any competition for him to come to the town, again, because all we're really doing is making this guy rich.
Sure.
And Chairman Bloomfield, if I may just clarify, originally those original medical dispensary licenses were assigned and allocated throughout the state according the Arizona Department of Health Services kind of divvied everything up and assigned Arizona or Gilbert 2 CHAWs, they called them. I forget what the actual term means, but essentially saying that, hey, Gilbert, if they want to, they're able to have two they're allocated 2 licenses, the ability to have 2 licenses within the town. However, once an established a dispensary has been established for 3 years, they're able to move anywhere, regardless of where those licenses were initially allocated. For example, if a facility wanted to locate or has been established in Mesa for 3 years, they are now able to relocate to Gilbert. They still have to abide by all the distancing requirements set forth in our code. For example, they may not locate within a mile of another dispensary, within a little over 1,000 feet of a school, so on and so forth. They're still required to abide by those, but those original CHAWs didn't necessarily restrict Gilbert to only 2 dispensaries. They were just saying, hey, we've saved Gilbert the ability to have 2 licenses, if that clarifies things.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Bloomfield, if I may,
Yes.
just to provide some additional insight. The town council's action through ordinance that was passed in October prohibited any recreational marijuana venues from coming into the Gilbert other than dual licensee situations where there's an existing medical marijuana facility. This ordinance is just making some cleanup to the land development code to go in line with the ordinance that the council passed. These changes won't impact the ability for competition or recreational coming in. That's the ordinance that was passed that's already in place. So this is just cleanup for that. If the council at some future point decides to allow medical or allow recreational to come in as a standalone, then we'll come back with changes to the LDC to undo some of these things that are being done.
Okay. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right. Please, Commissioner Munt.
And I recognize that, given the answer, that this is, to chair or to council member Anderson's point, I have the same concerns, and I voiced them at the time before, but this isn't the venue of that. But nonetheless, this I believe is just that cosmetic changing from these terms to make it easier. But we already do have the restriction and the, in essence, monopoly, as Chairman Anderson put it. And as well as if you drive down Gilbert Road, you can just go across the street to Chandler and they'll take the tax dollars and then you can just drive it back. But nonetheless, this is just to clean it up, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Mesa has two dispensaries that I don't actually know that much about these. Well, 35 years in the military, including currently in the Guard. I have surprisingly little experience with any form of narcotic, but two Mesa dispensaries are on the north side of Baseline Road within stone's throw of our, it's almost like the surrounding cities are placing them like sentinels around the edges of Gilbert.
Okay. If there's any more discussion, let's have it. If not, we'll close the public hearing. Or do we need to open the public hearing?
We do. Chairman, if you're ready, I will unmute the lines.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to unmute the lines. If you would like to speak on this item, please state your name. I did not hear anyone,
I
Chairman.
don't seem to hear anybody either. And we do have a request, or somebody who's in favor of this item. Lindsay Shube is in the audience and wishes to speak if needed. Sounds like you must need to.
No, I don't. But she came, so.
Sure.
Field, have you ever heard a zoning attorney that doesn't need to introduce themselves? Chairman Bloomfield. Commissioners, Lindsay Shube for your record with law firm of Gamage and Burnham, 40 North Central. I represent the only dispensary that you guys do have in Gilbert right now. We're in support of this text amendment. Your staff has been a fabulous partner over the years. We've been good partners as well. I think we have been. So they shared this with us. We have no concerns, but able to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. With that, do we have any other questions for Mrs. Shube or anybody else? Shall we close the public hearing? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. I open for a motion or discussion as you see fit. So, please.
I just have a quick comment. I just want to kind of make it known that, whether in support or against the actual use of marijuana, I think that this language and the work that the staff has done is very well done, and the cleanup is well needed, and I think they did a great job. So.
Okay, thank you. Anybody? Discussion or open for a motion?
I feel comfortable now just hearing what the town attorney has said too, because obviously, the single person that's in here, of course, they're going to be in favor of it if it was
Sure.
what I was thinking, but I do feel a lot more comfortable, and thank you for the explanations.
Good with the motion?
Yes, ready for a motion.
All right, so I'll make a motion for reasons set forth in the staff report to move to recommend approval to the town council for ZR 20-10 as requested.
Second.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Blazer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Passes.
Chairman?
Yes.
Can you please repeat that? I had a note that the case number was wrong. That was mentioned.
Z 20-10, Smart and Safe Act.
All right, so I'll make a motion for reasons set forth in the staff report. Move to recommend approval to the town council for Z20-10 as requested.
Okay. Second again.
Second.
Commissioner Blazer, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Is that better? All right. Cleaned up our own mess, right? Just like that. Okay. Administrative items. Planning Commission minutes. Consider the approval of the minutes of last meeting, January 6th.
I'll
Vice
make
Chair.
a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January 6th as written.
Second.
Second.
From Commissioner Munt. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Chairman and members of the commission on current events, if anybody has any they want to bring up. We haven't had any ninja stories from you for a while. Commissioner Munt, you want to
Okay, I'll
share
throw
one?
a story in, and I'll just put out that this has to do similar with the Ninja, but the new park that's being put in over by the ice skating rink, that's where my son's, 4 or 5-year-old soccer team, where I happen to be coach, go Green Tigers. And I just think that piece this will look very good there. Just not to reassess that, but just the fact that I used to go there every Saturday in the mornings and play. And also the fact that I'm very much looking forward to the day in the hopefully very near future when we can go back out and play soccer without feeling like I'm being a detriment to myself or my family or society at large. So I'm glad to see everyone here, and I'm very much looking forward to when current events are, these masks don't exist and we're all inoculated to a very high degree. So.
Okay. And thank you for that. And as far as we are entering that time of the year where it's so nice to be outside and pleasant, and this is the reason why we live here in Gilbert, and in large measure is the beautiful weather we're having now. And I just want to put in a plug for the city parks, and especially the new one down south on Higley and Queen Creek. That is a beautiful and a fun park, and been able to go out there several times with my family and grandkids, and just have a great time. So appreciate that. All right, Planning Services Manager, Ava.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to let everybody know that planners right now probably have the heaviest caseload that they've had in years, so please be prepared for very full agendas coming up. We have hired an additional planner, and I hope to introduce her to you soon.
Thank you. So are we going to get back to dinners here if we go longer than a couple hours? Come on.
Or hire 2 so that they're all on consent.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll adjourn. Till next month. Look forward to seeing you guys then.
Thank you.